So I have a lot of clients who are not fully like out of the closet, so to speak, with their spirituality, with their spiritual gifts, with their mission. Like they're here to be on stage, they're here to be a speaker, and they're not doing that yet. Like they're not doing it. And what happens is when you step into your mission and into your purpose and you activate, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing on the planet, your divine life partner is connected to that mission and they finally come right in. But when you haven't done that activation and you're hiding, he can't find you and he can't see you, and his timeline doesn't move forward either. Because as you move yourself forward on your timeline, he comes with you. So that's a big thing I want to bring up, because when you're in the energy of waiting, nothing moves. Contrary to popular belief, I do not actually enjoy being the person who tells people things that everybody else is too afraid to tell them. So I just want to preface this with that. I want to talk about common blocks I see with women I work with who are trying to attract love. I had posted an Instagram reel about this yesterday, and as I record this, and I got a lot of messages, and I wanted to do an episode on this. It's a topic that is so relevant in my work. You know, I would say, again, probably the top thing people come to me for is they want to attract their life partner. So I'm talking about this a lot. Relationships, it's one of my favorite topics. And it's a place where we're really called up to do our deepest spiritual work to be able to attract our partners. I think people can get by avoiding some stuff when it comes to things like money, but when it comes to attracting in a person who has their own free will, it really tugs on a lot of strings for people that other things don't tug on, such as control. And when we look at attraction in terms of relationships, we're getting a really clear picture about where our frequency actually is based on who we're attracting in. And I think it can be a really like rude awakening for all of us. I know I went through that too, when I'm like, you know, I'm doing all this work, but why am I still attracting in this type of person? I had to realize, well, maybe I'm not doing all my work. Maybe I'm doing the wrong work. And I had to come to terms with the fact that my reality is not showing me an inaccurate perception of how I'm showing up and where my frequency is at. Like I had to just accept that, because that is the truth about manifestation. And it wasn't that everybody else in the world was the problem and, you know, I'm a victim. It was that I had to shift myself and realize some important things about myself. And I had to get humbled a little bit to do the proper work to actually be able to attract in the type of man I wanted to attract in. So I, again, work with a lot of women who struggle with love. And I'm focusing, as I share this information, on clients I work with and patterns I see who are women trying to attract in a divine masculine man, because the men I work with, I have different things to say. I work with a lot of men. My private practice is actually like way more men than women, and I have very, very different perspective on this. So I'm focusing on this and hoping this will help you. And I'm sharing this because I feel like there's a lot of stuff in here that nobody says to your face, and it's like not easy to hear. But I think this is a good medium to share it in, because I'm not talking directly to anybody in particular. So it's not directly at you, but you'll know if it's directly at you, or you might. There's a lot of women who come to me, like most people who come to me most people are already doing like the work. You know, they're already into manifestation and energy stuff. They've been working with people. They're doing personal development. But I just want to say, just because somebody says they're doing personal development doesn't mean that they actually are. And in the dating scene, I can tell you this for sure. I have gone on so many dates with men who are like, yeah, I'm really into personal development. And then I look at how they live and how they show up. I'm like, I don't think it's developing you. Sorry. Like, I don't think it's working. So just because we go through the motions doesn't mean something's effective, right? People can go to the gym every day and still be out of shape, right? I know somebody who goes to the gym every day and body doesn't seem to change. And I've gone to the gym with this person. And I'm like, you're literally just walking around, like looking at everybody else the whole time. You don't even use a machine. Like, you don't even use a weight. Like, again, going through the motions isn't enough. Is it effective? So I want to like just get down to the real around, again, I think some of the most common and less talked about patterns that block women from manifesting in their divine life partner. Okay. So first, I'm going to kind of, well, maybe I'll touch on this. You know, the first thing is when you want to attract in a man who's in his divine masculine, you have to, if that's what you're saying you want, you have to consider what it means to truly be a vibrational match for that. Am I showing up really in my divine feminine? And being in your feminine energy is step one. And, you know, that could be for another episode. I want to like kind of go past that because I think that's more of a basic conversation. First is learning to get into your feminine energy. So when I mean that, I mean like you have to be willing to let somebody else lead. You have to be willing to follow somebody else, right? Like if you want him to plan the dates, you have to be willing to allow that. You have to be willing to let him make choices on behalf of you. I'm not saying he's going to make choices for your whole life, but like in those little moments, and I learned this. I remember when I was just so in my masculine energy and I was like, yeah, I want to be my feminine. I just want a man who will plan dates for me. I noticed that as I was allowing that, men would be planning things, and there would be this thing in me. It would be like, no, that's wrong. I don't want to do that. No, we should do it this way. Like I was trying to micromanage his plan. And I realized I'm like, oh my God, like I'm literally not letting him just do it. You got to be willing to just let him do it. Even if you don't think it's perfect. Like it is perfect because he's leading. Let him lead, right? Let him figure it out. Like you got to be willing to release control. And you realize all of these control mechanisms you have within yourself that are not actually allowing you to be in your feminine. And so I think we've got to really unpack and look at what it really means to be in your feminine energy, to be, you know, this is in your intuition, letting yourself actually receive, letting him plan, letting him lead, letting him make decisions, not micromanaging him, not parenting him. I think a lot of women who struggle to attracting their divine life partner, they're very used to trying to parent everybody around them, especially if you're somebody that is in a profession where you give advice. It's been one of the most like intense things for me that I really have had to learn of like in my relationship, I have to show up really differently. And I also like my partner will call me out on moments where I slip. It's like, he's like, I'm not your client. And I'm like, oh shit, you're right. Like I got to pull it back. Like I have to be in a really different energy. Because that's one of the main things that's like not going to attract in a divine masculine man. So there's the getting into your feminine and just like receiving, being in your creative flow, being in your softness. There's your divine feminine energy. A lot of women who are struggling to attract in a divine feminine or a divine masculine man, they're either too in their masculine energy or they're in their wounded feminine energy. You've got to be in your divine feminine energy. So I want you to think about like where on the spectrum you need to be. If he's in his divine masculine, not just masculine, not wounded masculine. You've got to be that frequency match. You've got to be so in your true divine feminine, your queen energy, your empress energy, your soft energy, your maiden energy, your mother energy, like all of those archetypes, you're there. The divine frequency, not the wounded, chaotic, I can't control myself. I have no structure to my life. I, need someone else to manage my emotions, and we're going to get into that. Like you've got to really realize that the polarity difference, right? Because it's like equal opposites attract. That's how polarity works sexually. So it has to be vibrationally resonant. So if I'm like just barely in my feminine, I want a divine masculine man, I'm not a frequency match. I've got to be that far on the spectrum in my divine feminine to be a frequency match for him. Okay, so that's the first thing. And I think a lot of people kind of have illusions about where they're at on the spectrum. I say that with love. We all have this, okay? But again, you're going to attract in what you want. Or you're going to attract in what reflects back who you are, the frequency that you are. Where I want to start is if you are telling yourself the story that it's really hard to find a divine masculine man, that will be your reality. I'm just going to tell you that. So when people come to me and they're struggling with this, and that's what they tell me, I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Like, that's going to be your reality. I was talking with somebody recently who was like, there's no good men in San Diego. Look, objectively, there are cities that are, by the numbers, harder to date in. Like, you know, there are lists of like worst cities in America to date in. San Diego is certainly on there. Like Philly, LA, places like that. And you can look at that with the 3D matrix, and like objectively, I could say that's true. But you know what's also true is when you are manifesting and you're working with frequency, literally none of that matters. You just need one person. You just need one person. And when you are a super attractor, that person comes to you. Whether you meet them while you're traveling, or they come visit for a weekend, or they live here, it literally doesn't matter. This is the power of your frequency. So if you're going to say that you are somebody that works with energy and you manifest and you really work on this plane and you're not working with the matrix limitations, then that does not go along with the belief that there are no good men to date in insert city in San Diego. Somebody was like, you know, there's no good men. It's so hard to date. Everybody's a Peter Pan. There's a lot of Peter Pans out here for sure. But I've never had a problem finding good men. Like every man I've dated is a good man. Like, you know, that's just what I have to say about it. So there are plenty of examples to validate whatever your belief is. And as long as you tell yourself the story and you keep affirming that it's really hard to date, it's really hard to meet someone, there's no like-minded people, everyone's a Peter Pan, nobody wants to settle down, that will be your reality. And you have to change your affirmation. You have to really believe and know that there are good people all around. It's the same limitation people set on themselves when they're trying to attract friends. People will come to me like, I'm really trying to find aligned friends, but nobody in this area is into this stuff. It's just not true. Like, it's just not true. There are always people. I've been in the like most random airport cities, like middle of nowhere places. Somehow every person I sit next to is spiritual. I mean, it's truly a frequency thing. And I'm just telling you that so you understand another reality that exists, and you can say, no, blah, blah. You can push it away. That's fine. Things aren't going to change until you change. And again, like I have had to go through this in my own life when I used to struggle with dating, and I didn't want to admit that it was about me, but like it is always about me. Whatever I'm attracting is always about me. And that's actually a very powerful thing when you can accept that. Okay. So what is that affirmation that you have in your head? And even if whatever you're saying consciously, I want you to go into your subconscious. Like, do you believe you're going to meet your person here? Do you believe that it's hard to meet your person? Do you believe that there's nobody who's, you know, up to par with your expectations? Do you believe that what you're looking for is so specific, it's going to be really hard and take a long time to meet them? Then that's going to be your reality. So you've got to work on those subconscious beliefs, because when you change them, you can meet somebody really fast. I mean, look, to date me, you've got to be a specific person. You know, you got to be a specific, very fucking specific person. There's a lot of baggage that comes with this, right? With this lifestyle, with my interests. It's so specific. And I'm bringing this, you know, up partially also because I've had a lot of people recently tell me how triggering I am to them, because of like my love life. And I hear that and I'm like, great, well, let me show you how. Like, let me show you how I attract this or create this. Because people are like, you know, you just attract so quickly, and, you know, like your boy, he's so specific. And yeah, I'm not some magical unicorn. This could happen to for anybody, but I know how to manage my frequency. Like, I know who I need to become to be a vibrational match for that. And this is all about who you are and how you're showing up and what you're embodying. And if you're not attracting this person in, it is because there is something about you. Sorry. Now, sometimes there's a timing thing. And we can speed up timing when we are fully in embodiment. And I'm not saying that something about you is that there's something wrong with you. I'm not saying that. Sometimes it's like an action we need to take. Okay. So sometimes it's, we've got to move cities, or we've got to travel somewhere, or there's some personal discovery we have to make about ourselves and who we are. Maybe we're going to change our style. Again, it's not like something is wrong with you, but sometimes there are steps you've got to take to get further down the vibrational track to be a vibrational match for that person. So if you know that person is waiting for you in his divine masculine right here on the timeline, you've got to look at where you're at. And if you're here, you've got to take the steps to be a vibrational match for him. Okay. So logistically, where I want to start is what I just mentioned about sometimes it's I've got to move, I've got to make adjustments with my social circle. I need to, it could be a style thing or something you're really interested in. A lot of times it's connected to your career. So a lot of times it might be the logistics of it, of like, there's just no space for that person in your life because you're so busy, running around, too busy with work, whatever it is. But a lot of times it's that you haven't stepped into the level of your mission where that person can fully see you. Again, this is all about authenticity. So your divine life partner is going to come straight to you when you are embodying the truth of who you are. I have a lot of clients who have this mindset of, I need my divine masculine in my life so I feel safe to step into the light. And they are not taking the steps they need to take in their mission, in their purpose, with their career, because they're waiting for him so that they feel safe. And this is usually not how it's going to work for you. Usually it's you got to step into the light so you're visible and then he sees you. There are things that are going to change about you. So I'll give you an example with me. Before I came out of the closet as a psychic, it would have made no sense for me to meet my person. Like, it would make no sense. I had to step into who I am as a psychic, as an energy healer. I had to publicly step into that. I have had to go through, like this walk-in, this soul swap, this stepping into who I am to fully embody the truth of my frequency. Because when I'm hanging out there, if this is who I really am, he came in. It was like that, right? Whoever I was attracting at the time was a vibrational match for who I was. And so as I was along like that journey of becoming the true me and expressing that, I was attracting people in who were kind of mirroring me in terms of how fully expressed I was. So I have a lot of clients who are not fully like out of the closet, so to speak, with their spirituality, with their spiritual gifts, with their mission. Like, they're here to be on stage, they're here to be a speaker, and they're not doing that yet. Like, they're not doing it. And what happens is when you step into your mission and into your purpose and you activate, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing on the planet, your divine life partner is connected to that mission and they finally come right in. But when you haven't done that activation and you're hiding, he can't find you and he can't see you, and his timeline doesn't move forward either. Because as you move yourself forward on your timeline, he comes with you. So that's a big thing I want to bring up, because when you're in the energy of waiting, nothing moves. And a lot of my female clients are just in the energy of waiting. They're waiting. They're kind of hiding in the shadows. They're kind of keeping status quo. They have these big goals and dreams and they're not moving forward with them, not realizing that moving forward with them is what draws that person to you. Sometimes very logistically, like I have, like I know people who they want to start another aspect of their business and they're like, I just want to kind of settle down with all of this here. And then I want to meet my person. And then once that's stabilized, then I'm going to step into that part of my mission. I'm like, but you're going to meet him when you do that thing. Like, you're not going to meet him until you do that thing, whether that's because it vibrationally attracts him in, or it's because logistically, that's how you meet that person. Like maybe they work in marketing, or they're an investor, or like whatever. They're a photographer, or they come to an event that you're coming to as part of promoting this or learning about it, or they're connected to somebody who's in a mastermind you join, or like whatever it is. There's, again, these are all like the way that you speed up the timeline is moving forward on the timeline of your life. You can collapse that. And when you do that, you bring that person in faster, but you have to become the version of yourself that's a vibrational match for him. And a lot of people are trying to wait for him to come in and then become her. You need to become her now, because that's how he's going to see you and come straight to you. Okay. So that's the first piece. Stop waiting to live your mission. You got to live your mission first. Whatever is intuitively coming up for you with your career about your next steps, where you're hiding, you've got to step into the light. You've got to show who you really are. You've got to hit the next phase in your mission and keep going down that track. Don't wait. Because when you're waiting, You're staying in the energy of stuckness for everybody and it's not moving it forward. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing is about communication and energy management. I would say this is usually one of the biggest ones that nobody talks about. So, and this is the difference between being in your wounded feminine and your divine feminine energy. So, one of the most common complaints women make about men is that they're like little boys, right? Like they're too soft, like little boys, or like they want a mommy. They want a mommy. They don't want a wife or a partner. And there are many people who are like that. There's also many people who aren't like that. So how do you attract somebody like that? You got to be a vibrational match for him. He also does not want to be with a woman who cannot emotionally manage herself. I'm not saying that you can't have emotions, right? A divine masculine can hold divine feminine emotion, but there's a difference between chaotic feminine energy of just energy vomiting on everybody around you and healthy emotional expression and feeling your emotions and not trying to dump it on everybody. So if you're in a pattern of clinginess with people in your life, if you are somebody that is very anxiously attached, and avoidantly attached as well. Like attachment certainly comes into this, and that could be a whole other topic. You've got to heal your attachment to attract someone who's secure. But to be honest, I think the bigger block comes with the anxious tendencies that people have of there's like this clingy energy that the divine masculine will feel as this person wants a parent. They don't want a partner. Because the way that you want him to support you, he needs you to support him. You've got to think about what a divine masculine man is really looking for. And I'll tell you, I talk to a lot of them all the time. I know what goes on through their heads and the things that turn them off or where they are like, that's a sign she's not for me. If you need constant validation, you're not in your divine feminine. He doesn't want to deal with that. If you're super insecure and he is your source of security, he is your source of wholeness and worthiness. Like if he has to fix you, if he feels like he has to fix that part of you, then he's not going to be attracted to that. A divine masculine man is not attracted to that. A feminine man is attracted to fixing people. All right. If there's a lot of like energy vomiting, if he's looking for the mother of his children and like we can't emotionally regulate ourselves, we're energy vomiting on everybody around us, divine masculine men are not attracted to that because primally they're like, she can't manage a family, right? When you have kids, they're going to trigger you. When you have kids, they're going to throw tantrums. And if you're off crying in a corner or can't figure it out, like it's not going to work, right? So there's like that primal piece of them that's they're looking for who would be a good wife and a good mother to my kids. The same way we primarily are looking at thinking, feeling, could this man be a father and a husband? Right? How does she deal with conflict? Does she blame everything on everybody else or does she take personal responsibility? How does she express her emotions? I think a lot of women, I will tell you this for certain, there's a lot of women that will say, this man can't handle my emotions. Is it that he can't handle emotions or is that the way that you are expressing them is actually very chaotic and unhealthy? Again, I'm not saying to suppress and pretend like you're fine all the time, but like I know. And I know for myself being on the receiving end and the giving end. When I was younger and I was upset, I would just energy vomit on my partners. And I learned that I needed to take personal responsibility and I could cry and I could express, but I didn't need to vomit on him or throw it on him. I could just allow him to witness me. And that's a very different energy. The same way, I don't want him to vomit on me, but I will happily hold space and I'll happily witness and I'll happily be there for him. Those are two different things. And so we have to learn healthier emotional regulation practices. And again, that doesn't mean like you can't, we should ask our partners for support and the masculine wants to help us. That's part of being in our feminine, like being willing to say like, hey, can you help me with this? Like they love that, but it's different to ask for support than it is to be in a victim energy and want someone to fix all your problems, like where you completely can't be self-sufficient. So that's a big thing. And here's the nuance. This energy comes up with a lot of women I know who are actually high-powered entrepreneurs. I know that might sound weird because these are women that are like problem solvers, fixers. They can be very in their masculine at work, but in emotional relationships, they will be in their wounded feminine. This will also usually come up with their female friendships. If you notice you have a lot of drama with female friendships, if you notice you struggle to attract women into your life, like if you don't feel like you have a solid group of women, they don't have to be like, all know each other. But if you really struggle to find women who can support you, I promise you need to look into that, because that's directly connected to why you're struggling to attract in a divine masculine man, your divine counterpart. I promise you, because it's probably because there's a clingy energy, an anxious energy, an entitled energy. I see this a lot with female entrepreneurs. There can be like an entitled energy where everybody needs to adjust to me all the time. It's my schedule is what's leading the show. It's basically all about me, expecting everybody to take care of me. And your divine masculine is not going to follow you around like a puppy. The same way you don't want to follow him around like a puppy, right? Like there has to be some compromise. And so if you're completely uncompromising, then that's not going to be a vibrational match either. Similarly to, do you only talk about yourself? Do you only care about yourself? Can you be a good listener? I often find that women who struggle with this tend to be the type that talk, and they don't listen. They're the type of person that can also struggle with female relationships because they're the type that they only talk about themselves for hours and they don't reciprocate with their friends, right? They're the person where their friends or people who are their friends will like avoid them because they energetically vomit. Like it's too much, right? And men are gonna not want to deal with that because it's actually not their job to deal with it. The same way it's actually also often not your friend's job to deal with it. If it's feeling like that, that's where you should go to a therapist, right? Like we have to know the difference between what is for our friends to support us with, our partners, our family, and professionals. And I've talked about this before, but a lot of people don't understand that boundary. And there is a boundary. There are some things that in ways that we show up where this is for a professional, like a therapist, like a psychologist, a psychiatrist, whoever it is, professional coaches of different types, where that is okay in that setting. But we've got to know our boundaries with, as grown adults. It's actually not anybody's job around us who's like a friend or a partner to parent us or to take care of us, to solve every problem in our lives. Take it or leave it. But I'm just telling you my perspective. And as somebody who has seen a lot of healthy relationships and a lot of unhealthy relationships, like with clients, like I've studied this intimately for the last decade, there are patterns. There are patterns of people who are happy, genuinely happy, who are in healthy dynamics, who attract the love of their life quickly and easily, where it's flow, where it feels, it's not that there's never any challenges, but like how they have healthy communication and can work on things. And there are patterns of people who have chaotic relationships, struggle to attract anybody in, get divorces, get a lot of divorces. Like there are patterns, there are signs, right? And we've got to learn healthy communication skills. The way that we express our emotions is part of healthy communication skills. And also is, how do we talk to people? And this goes both ways, right? This is not just one-sided, but I'm talking about, for women. One of the most important things I ever did for myself was learning how to communicate with the masculine, learning that the male brain is wired differently, and learning how my brain is wired, and all of the ways that I was making assumptions, I was projecting things on him, I was getting upset about something disproportionate to what actually happened, because in my mind I still had a resentment toward 80 other things that happened 5 months ago, because that's what the female brain does. We are thinking horizontally and the masculine is thinking vertically. We are thinking quantum. The masculine thinks linear, like step by step instructions. We're thinking 80 things at a time. So Alison Armstrong gives this example a lot. She's an amazing person to read her work, to learn from, about really learning communication. I just think I cannot recommend her work enough. But like the idea of, the woman's getting upset with the man about the dishes in the sink. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll just clean the dishes. I'll solve the problem. And then she's getting so upset because really she's getting upset about him leaving the laundry out and him not taking out the trash, like all these things. And he thought, well, if I just put away dishes, didn't I solve the problem? But the woman's like, no, you didn't. Because again, we've got to realize, where am I projecting all of this other shit onto this experience? And that's not actually what's going on. And so that's where we have to take responsibility of, you know, like for me, I'm turning this into something bigger than it actually is. And I have to recognize that to be able to communicate in a healthy way. Because I also have to recognize, like, if I'm holding resentment or if I'm not feeling seen or heard, and can I express that in a loving way to that person, right? There are basic communication skills that we need to learn in relationships. We cannot order people around in relationships. We can't order people around. It's not a dictatorship. It's a partnership. There has to be compromise. There has to be, communication. There's got to be adjustments. You're in it together. You're a team. And I find that a lot of the women I work with are not very good at teams. Like, sometimes this will show up in they're bad at managing teams. Sometimes it will show up in they can't ever have like a partner in something. Sometimes it will show up just in terms of like an energy of, I'm an entrepreneur because I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. But can you collaborate? Can you, work with a team to collaborate to create a project? How does your team feel about you, right? Can you listen to other people? Can you put yourself in their shoes for a moment? Everything that happens, is it about you and how you're feeling in that moment? Or can you, in an argument, regulate yourself, regulate your nervous system, take a pause, and genuinely feel, what is that person feeling right now? What's going on through their head? What's their trigger? Can I find compassion in that moment? Or is it just, I'm upset and it's all about me and this is how I feel and you're wrong, your feelings are wrong, well, you need to adjust to what I want, and so it is. Like, as long as you're in that energy, and again, this is going to show up in friendships, it's probably going to show up in family dynamics, it'll show up in teams. Where else do I see it? I think a lot of it comes up with the pattern in female friendships. And these are all lessons we've got to learn to be able to communicate with our partner. There are some things that you're really only going to learn through repetition. And this leads me to my next point, where there's a lot of this energy of, well, I'm not even going to bother going on dates until I know he's my person. Why would I do that? You need to go on dates. You need to practice. Like, you're not going to learn how to communicate in a healthy way until you get the reps in, until you're in a scenario where maybe there's, a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, or you need to speak up about your feelings, and you start to learn, wow, that didn't land very well. Oh, I could say it better this time. Like, people teach you, especially a good communicator will teach you, like, hey, when you share this, like, it hurts my feelings when it's shared in this way because it feels this way to me. Is it possible for you to express it in this way? Right? Like being able to tell people what we actually need. That's only going to come through dating people. And there's a big pattern I see with women who have been single for a really, really long time. And it's that they aren't understanding how to be in a relationship. They don't understand how to actually communicate with men. I think that dating is a skill. I think communication is a skill. I think partnership is a skill. And I think the attitude of, I don't want to waste so much time getting to know people, I just want to meet my person, is a really unhelpful attitude. And that's just my perspective. I think when you fall in love with the process of just getting to know people, you don't need to put pressure on it. Not every date needs to be, your person, but you're only going to know until you just get to know people. And if it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. But I think way too many people write people off. It's the same people who struggle to attract their partner that they go on one date with someone and they decide it's not it. I'm not saying you can never tell off the first date, but there are a lot of very, very happy couples that they're with their true divine life partner, they're with their soulmate, who didn't feel even that spark until like a couple dates in or months in. Like, there's nothing wrong with slow attraction at all. But a lot of times the people that struggle the most with dating and with attraction, they make really fast judgments. With a lot of my clients, I'll tell them, if you are semi-interested in someone, you've got to go on at least 2 dates, if not 3. The third date is when you're getting, I think, a much clearer picture of somebody, but there are nerves on the first date, there's assumptions. And I find that when people make judgments on the first date, and look, there's caveats to this, right? It's like if you have completely different political beliefs, if you have completely different religious beliefs, if you're finding out just factual things where it's just like, it's truly just not going to work, I get it. But a lot of the judgments people make are a lot more surface level than they realize. And sometimes if you give people like another date, you're seeing another side to them, and you want to collect more data before making these really fast assumptions. And it's just something that I think that you have to experience. Dating is more successful for people who are willing to go on dates, who are willing to give something like 2 tries. Just know for sure. Go on it twice. Don't make a snap judgment about somebody. I think that a lot of the people who struggle with attraction are also often way too set on looks. Like this is one of the most common things I see. And you've got to be open to someone coming in a package different than what you expected. You've just got to. And I'm not saying you're not. Of course, you need to be physically attracted to your partner, but sometimes physical attraction can grow. And sometimes you can see people differently when you get to know their heart. And sometimes you can become extremely attracted to people who, like, the first time you met them, you thought, they're like, yeah, they're okay. The same way, I mean, I know I've had this. Have you ever been really attracted to somebody and then you get to know their personality and you're like, they're not attractive at all? Like, they're an asshole. So in your mind, they're just not attractive. We can fall out of love with people, right? We can fall out of like physical attraction with people, and you can fall into it as well. I think that the surface level thing is a big deterrent for people. I feel like there's very much this perfectionist lens, and this also goes with behavior, right? So when I hear people's explanations of dates or people, I want you to be really careful of where you are. You've created this ideal of someone in your head, and you are requiring absolute perfection. And if somebody does one thing, you're like writing them off, right? Or if there's one hair out of place, they're not the person for you. I mean, I have people who are like, well, I don't want a brunette, I want a blonde. I'm like, you got to get over it. Like, I mean, really? Are you going to turn down the perfect person because of their hair color? Is that what really matters to you? Because here's the thing. When that is what really matters to you, you're not in your divine feminine. I'm going to tell you that. Like, when you're truly in your divine feminine, those things don't matter to you as much. And when they don't matter to you as much, that's actually when it's very easy to attract in the exact like person you're looking for in terms of physical attraction, because you've let it go. And then you're actually a vibrational match for that person. But when we are caught up in these very like surface level, or I want to say immature things, right? We're not a vibrational match for a divine masculine. And that's why, again, thinking about dating as a skill, you've got to get more maturity with your dating. I'm just saying it this way because I just want to be really straight with people. Again, the people who struggle with attracting their divine life partner are always the people who are emotionally immature when it comes to relationships, romantic relationships. That doesn't mean that they're emotionally immature in other parts of their life. In fact, a lot of times they can be very immature in other areas, but they're usually emotionally immature with relationships. And so developmentally, they'll be like kind of operating almost, usually like the guides will tell me, they're like developmentally in their relationships, they're at age 16, they're at age 11, or they're at age 21. Like the guides will tell me the age somebody is stuck at, which then kind of helps me figure out what we need to focus on depending on the age they're at developmentally. The same way we can be that in our businesses or with our health or just in friendships. Like we can have different development in different areas of our lives. If I start playing, I don't know, soccer today, I've never played soccer in my life, I'm going to be developmentally like a 3-year-old at soccer, and then the more I play soccer, I'm going to get more mature in that skill. It's the same thing with dating, with having conversations, with navigating conflict. Navigating conflict with your romantic partner is different than navigating it with your family. It's different than navigating it with friends. It's different than navigating it with employees or contractors. It is different. And you cannot just apply your business skills to your relationship and think it's going to work. You can't. So there's a lot of surrender that comes with this. There's a lot of, being in an energy of who is a man that I would actually follow, and recognizing like, I will follow him. Like, he's going to take the lead, like I fully trust my boyfriend to make decisions for me and for us. And that was one of the things that I really thought about. I was like, the person in front of me, if I got in a situation where I could not make a single decision for myself ever again, is this somebody who I would trust to make every single decision for me and my kids? That's like literally what I'm thinking about. That level of surrender. That's not actually what's going to happen, but it's that level of, that's how much I trust you and respect you and see you. And if there's a piece of you that would never give up that level of control, or like, well, I would never trust anybody, well, then there's your block, right? You have to be willing to trust him, to lead, to guide the family, to make decisions. That doesn't mean he's going to be perfect every single time. And that's the thing about the perfectionism is, I don't know that anybody's ever made a perfect decision every time. And from another angle, you could say every decision was perfect, right? It is what it is. But different people are going to make different choices. That doesn't mean it's wrong. So just because he planned a date that's not your perfect date doesn't mean it was wrong. It doesn't mean it was bad. He thought it was good. That's what he tried. So can you celebrate that? Like, can you allow that? But I think that we've got to really think about where we have created an unrealistic expectation for anybody to meet. And often people do that as a way to self-sabotage. Often people do that as a way to hide. And I find that a lot of women who struggle with attracting in their divine life partner that I work with, who are, very, very successful in other areas, they're very spiritual, they're doing all this personal work, they're doing all of the work that's not the relationship work. It's different sets of work. They will have this idea in their head of what they're looking for, that they set, not consciously realizing, but subconsciously, the intention is, no one will ever meet this standard because I want to be in charge. I want to be seen as perfect. I don't want anybody to know my wounds. I don't want anyone to know my flaws. I don't want anyone to know my deepest insecurities. I don't actually want to be vulnerable. So I'm going to say that this is who I want, and I'm not ever settling, and I'm a high frequency woman, so I'm never going to settle, and I'm this spiritual being, and I'm not settling. But I've set this expectation that's just never going to happen because nobody is perfect. And then I'm going to say single forever. And I get to blame everybody else that they're not good enough, when actually I just don't want to face my wounds. I actually just don't want to face that I still have things to learn. I don't want to face that I have areas I still have to grow in. I don't want to face that I have insecurities. I don't want that person to see me in my insecurities. I don't want the person to see me in where I feel like I'm not good enough, in my weakness. I don't want the person to know my finances. I don't want them to know my daily schedule. I don't want them to know like that my deepest, darkest fears. I don't want them to see me when I have a zit on my face. I don't want them to know when I'm upset. I don't want them, like, whatever it is. That's what's really underneath this, is a fear of true vulnerability. Because when you're with a divine masculine, like, he's going to see you laser sharp. He's going to call out. And I'll tell you, to this day, it triggers me. It triggers me when it happens. But then I'm like, oh, this is also why, like, I love him. Like, my boyfriend will just call me out on my bullshit. Like, where I'm not showing up, like, where I'm not doing enough, where I am not in my power, where I'm hiding, where like literally call me out. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really triggering because I don't want somebody to see that. And like, a big part of me hates it. And then part of me is like, oh my God, but I love this. Right. And he, like, cause he loves me with that. Right. And suddenly there's like liberation in that, of having somebody who can just see you and like sees you and all of the places that you're not perfect, who loves you and sees you, including all of like the things that you're good at, but also all the areas that you need to grow in. Like, there's actually a lot of liberation in that. So you don't have to keep putting on a front. And for me to also have grace with the person I'm with, because like they're going through their growth process too. Right. And I have to honor that. right? So I just think that a lot of times with women who are struggling with this, they have standards that are impossible to meet as a way of self-sabotaging and trying to protect themselves. And it's a way of keeping themselves lonely. I think that a lot of it is about kind of image. Definitely a lot comes up about, image. And if one person sees, it's kind of like, how people say every put together woman leaves a huge mess behind her, right? Like, I'm the epitome of that. So it's one thing, and actually my boyfriend and I were just talking about this last night. He was like, yeah, I remember when I first came to your house, I was like, wow, she's so clean. Like, it's spotless. Like, wow, that's really attractive. And he's like, now I see your bathroom. Right? It's like, but there's an energetic and a metaphor to that too, right? Of letting someone not just see these are all the things I've accomplished. This is how, aware I am and developed I am and all the work I've done and all my relationships and whatever it is that you're trying to show off. Like, but here's also like the stuff I'm working on. Here's like the mess in my closet. And yeah, I just stuffed everything in my drawer. It's not actually this clean, right? Like that person's gonna have to see that. And a lot of times we don't want other people to see that because we don't want to acknowledge it within ourselves. And I don't know why. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, okay, I don't have everything together all the time. Like it's okay. I'm messy. It's okay. I have things to work on that I'm still healing. The same way that person is too, because we're people and life is fluid and we don't have to, have our hair in a bun so tight all the time. Like you can let it down a little bit. So if you are somebody who feels like you're doing all the work, you're doing everything right, and you're still not attracting inner person, I want you to ask yourself, am I really fully in the light with who I am and my gifts and my mission and fulfilling my purpose? One, I want you to ask yourself, do I have issues in female relationships consistently? Figure that out because that's connected. I want you to ask yourself, maybe I'm doing all this work, but am I doing the right work? I want you to ask yourself, have I actually learned the skills of how to communicate in a relationship, how to navigate conflicts, how to energetically manage my emotions, how to take personal responsibility? Have I learned about the male brain and how it works? Do I really understand everything about the divine masculine and what allows him to be seen, what allows him to feel supported? Can I be a good partner? How can I be a good partner to a divine masculine if I don't even know anything about him? And a lot of times I find that a lot of these women who are struggling with that, I'm like, if you cannot get in his mind of like what this type of person is looking for or what they would need, if you're so busy only thinking about yourself from your own POV about what you want, well, I want a man who does this and that and this and that, then you're not a match for him. You have to care just as much. Like one of the things that gives me so much joy is being there for him, right? And like for me to really understand what he's going through and what he needs and how I can most support him so that he can support me, right? Like we nourish each other. It's a partnership. It's not just he's going to lead me and he's going to take care of me and I want a man who can, emotionally and mentally and physically meet me. It's all this stuff. And I'm not saying to not desire that, but I'm saying, but are you doing that for him? Like, or can you also do that for him? Because it goes both ways. And you've got to really, like if I were to ask you, can you intimately get in the mind of this man? You've got to know how to answer that. Because I mean, again, I've talked to a lot of these men. I know what they're thinking. I know what their turn-ons are. I know what their turn-offs are. I know what they're looking for. I know the exact behaviors where they're like, yeah, I can't manage that. And there's a reason why a lot of men, they're like, I am looking for someone with a big heart. I'm looking for somebody who likes to take care of people, and they're looking for somebody who's emotionally intelligent. They're not looking for somebody that's going to mother them, that's going to parent them, that's going to try and treat them like an employee or like a client. They are also looking for somebody who will give them space to lead. And so you got to think about, am I actually doing all those things? I could go on, but those were the main points I wanted to hit because, again, it's like it kills me because work with so many women who are so amazing. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, I am invested. I want everybody to meet their person. I want it to happen fast. And the reason it doesn't happen fast is usually because there's just stuff they don't want to face or acknowledge. And your romantic relationship itself is going to, be your greatest teacher. The process of becoming the version of you that can be a vibrational match for that person is also going to call you up. Like, it's going to make you uncomfortable. I'm just going to tell you that it's going to make you uncomfortable. If your growth hasn't made you uncomfortable, if it hasn't made you like look at your stuff and your little patterns that maybe aren't that healthy, that you don't even see, I mean, you're not on the path, but nothing changes if nothing changes. And so there's typically something behaviorally or energetically we need to shift. It's not just about everyday meditating and visualizing. That can only take you so far. If you are somebody that cannot be a vibrational match for a divine masculine, like you're not actually in your divine feminine, you're in your wounded feminine, or you're like barely in your feminine or still in your masculine, we've got to work on what it means to actually embody that goddess, that queen, that maiden, that mother, that like all of those archetypes. And when you are her and you're able to actually master your emotional realm, and you're able to hold space and have genuine compassion and think about other people and, take care of yourself with that as well, and follow your intuition and really embody all of this instead of trying to micromanage and control, or you're holding yourself back, or you're a victim to everything, or, you can't even get out of bed because your emotions. Like, I'm not saying this to invalidate your feelings, but I'm saying like these can be valid experiences, and also we must grow to be able to work with that. I have had to grow to develop a skill for a long time. I could not function. I could not work. I could not get out of bed because my emotions are so intense. Trust me, I'm getting a million messages a minute. I feel things so deeply, so intensely all the time. And I had a choice of it could cripple me or I could learn to work with it. And I learned to work with it. And that wasn't easy, but I did it. Right? I have had to face where it was just easier for me to be in my masculine, to do everything myself, to try and fix everybody else's problems, to try and be the healer to everybody else, to never let anybody in, to try and put on this perfect front. And I could do that and be lonely, or I could get real with myself, let other people shine a light on my imperfections and my triggers and where I had to grow, and let myself get humbled by the masculine. And when I did that, I learned how to actually like let love in and be loved, and attract in a man who could like hold that energy, So my point is, I know it's not always comfortable, but this is the stuff that people don't talk about as much. That really is what allows you to attract in that person. Again, go on dates and see the larger theme of who you're attracting in. If like time after time after time you're attracting the same type of person or the same pattern, you got to look at what part of you is available for that or a match for that. If you're attracting a ton of great people, but it's just not quite the right fit, and maybe there's like a bad date here and there, like that's different. But we're talking about general themes. And I'm also not talking about you just got out of a relationship, 5 months ago, and you've been together with that person for 10 years and you're like, why haven't I attracted somebody in? It's not fast enough. Like, calm down. I am talking about, this is like, maybe it's been decades, or it's been like 6 years and you've been single and you've been trying to attract somebody for that long. At that point, there's usually something deeper about, there's a vibrational activation that has to happen for you to be a frequency match for him. And I know it's not always fun to look at, but those things that you heal to be a vibrational match for that person are the things that you heal to become your highest self, to be your happiest, most liberated, most spiritual, most intuitive, most joyful, most magnetic version of you. It's only the stuff that's going to make your life better. It makes you more abundant in every single way. So it's the same stuff. And, I think that if you're listening and you're in this situation and this is triggering you, I would invite you to just get curious about it. I would invite you to drop the wall, because when I first started working on all of this stuff, I had coaches and mentors shining a light on all my issues. And I was like, no. And I kept blaming other people. Like, well, no, that's bullshit. Well, no, that's not fair. Or like, well, they have to do their work too. Well, no, I mean, I'm justified in talking this way because, well, like I was just so in, it was everybody else's problem. And that's why I had a hard time. And when I finally was like, what if it's a me thing? And again, I had done a lot of work already. So I didn't want to accept that I had to do more work. When I did, it was different work. It actually changed really fast and really easily. And my entire life positively changed. So I hope this was helpful. Sorry if I triggered you. I'm not trying to, but I just want to give you the real. I really just want to help. All right. Leave a comment if any of this resonates, if you've noticed any of this within yourself. I think a lot of us go through it, and it can be really helpful to have spaces to talk about this to share about this in my upgrade mastermind. Like, this is one of the big things we talk about, because that mastermind is all about like basically tangible tips to live in your queen energy, which we talk about communication and romantic relationships and sexuality and the divine masculine, all of that. Because these are real practical skills that I feel like adults aren't taught. And same thing, men need to learn the same thing. So you can maybe keep your eye on that for the next time I open that too, if you want to go deeper into it. All right. Hope this is helpful. Thank you for listening in today. That's going to be it for today. But I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and week, and I'll chat with you again next time.